Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about how are we living our lives. How is our life unfolding? What are the bumps and bruises along the way? Perhaps we are hitting a wall, and we're saying, I'm going to keep hitting that wall. I know it's going to go down one of these days. Others say I'm going to sit here and wait until it goes and opens. Others say I've hit that wall, but I'm going to turn around and go back the other way. This isn't made for me. How do we accept the challenges of our life, those things that are coming up for us, and perhaps saying, maybe I would like to create a different life? It's not about being able to say, how do we fit into a template to be validated, seen by others, have all those likes and comments on social media because we are now in their flow. How do we find our flow of how we're supposed to be in the world? Perhaps maybe our flow is hitting all the walls, learning what they're made out of, seeing how you can traverse through them, and saying, ooh, I found some other ways. Let me tell you my story. And I think that's definitely what we're talking about today is how do you expand your consciousness awareness, let go of all the stories and the imprints of your mind, and saying I no longer need to collect all those fragments of what things were supposed to be. Then you learn how to weave your own piece of tapestry. Today my guest is Faust Ruggiero. His book is the Fix Your Handbook, using the process weight of life to transform your life into a happy, healthy journey. Faust, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Dr. Gallagher, it's an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you today. Thanks for inviting me.
So glad to have you because, I think so many times people will come to me, being in healthcare over 5 decades, it's like fix me, save me, and rescue me. Isn't that what we hear all the time?
We hear that. You're right on target with that. What I find is that people are looking outside themselves for everything. We all have the power. We have everything we need right inside us. We just have to be willing to go get it. You said before, you hit the walls, you define the walls. That's what they're there for. That's where the learning is.
Let's talk about the really big thing in the wall. I think about the word fix yourself. And you think about the words, so then someone says, you mean I'm broken? You mean something's wrong with me? And over the decades, you and I are of older age, it was, everybody had to be right. They had to be perfect. Everybody had to be in control. They had to climb that ladder. And, things that were outside of the standard deviation, they were always squeezed back in. So now the idea, I think in the year 2023, we're coming to, there is no standard deviation, and people are craving that outside uniqueness. So what is the fix all about? What is broken?
You're hitting it on the head. Things have changed, and we wanted all these freedoms and wanted to do things the way we want to do them. But the problem is when that happens, we lose definition. So we're out there with all these alternatives and all these options and all these directions, and we don't know where to go. So now, again, we've gotten away from that part of ourselves that we can control our environment. That fix is really that, to say, let's get in there, let's fix this way we're doing things. Let's stop trying to let the rest of the world control us. You said social media. That can be a wonderful thing, but more often than not, it's controlling us. We can become a slave to these things. We lose. I call it life on autopilot. We're not thinking anymore. We're following along. So what we're really fixing is that urge to go outside, as opposed to go inside and learn about who we are. There's the first territory in our world, ourselves.
I think truly by putting that in the title, those who are following the old ways of fix, save, and survival me, it's a lead-in. It brings them to your book. Because if your book said, hey, let's be a creative soul and the spirit, they're like, what?
Exactly.
So if you had down fix yourself, be like, yeah, I've got these things going on. And it's a lead-in, because then when you get to the end of the book, it shows you that you're so much more, and you're not anything that you started out the beginning of the book to be. Correct?
And that's exactly. It's interesting. When I decided that was going to be the title, and it's now a whole series. I just published the second book, which is the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook. So it's going to be a series. Depression's coming next. When I put the first book out, the publisher said, "Oh no, we can't go with fix. We don't want anyone to think they're broken." And I said, when do we stop coddling people? When do we tell them it's okay to be doing the wrong things? We don't want to upset you. If something's broken, then it's broken. Those are the facts, and we go get it. And it's not impossible. Once you get started, it can become a labor of love. It doesn't have to be drudgery. You can enjoy changing these parts of yourself.
Yeah. I think sometimes we seem like, as humans, we're supposed to be intelligent. We're in control. And the more education you have, the more you know, the more you've been through things, then, it's like these badges on your wetsuit, Everybody's collecting all of these badges so they can have a great legacy, And you look at it and you go, whoa, wait a second. Those are just experiences I've passed through, and I've collected something. But, as I work a lot with patients at end of life, it's like they have come to the realization, when you go one breath to the next, that legacy doesn't come with you. Your badges and your baggage doesn't come with you. And your identity of all your stories doesn't come with you. So really, what is the purpose of all that collection? Maybe.
And some people feel they need that. And like you, I've been around a while, and I stopped doing that. In my 20s, I thought, what am I even doing this stuff for? Because, I go home and put it in a case or on the mantle or whatever you want to talk about, but it's over. And people talk about reminiscing, and, I love to look and remember that stuff, and I don't. I'm not one to look at old pictures. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm right here in the moment that I'm in.
Right.
When we hang up, I will be in the next moment or group of moments, and I'll apply my energies there. And when you do that, you are fully engaged. That's the key to this. People always explain why we're doing this. You're now fully engaged. All energy right there. You maximize your potential and your ability to make that an efficient and happy place. It's again, not rocket science. It's really very simple, straightforward stuff.
But I think actually, too, when you have all those badges and all of those identities, they end up being this false shield around you and a false sense of who you think you are, who you believe you are, and who you want others to believe you are. And then when something happens to you, you crumble. The back of of who you are actually inside crumbles, because it's always created this false identity. So in essence, what you're truly talking about when you see this, the first step is see your false identity, set it to the table over there on the side, and say, now, who am I? What am I about? Where am I stuck? Where am I going? That is true, authentic awareness, observation, and taking away from all of that other schmutz that you've collected. That's when the real work starts, correct?
It's when the work starts, and it's when, and it can be when the fun begins, depending on the way you look at it. And I'm a very practical person. I like to give them all the information, but then I don't want to just leave it there, because I think too many people are doing that. I like to be actionable. So I'll say, okay, based on that, let's do this. So when they come and I say, let's take that mask off and put it on the table, I say, let's just do it for now. I'm not telling you to cast it off and don't be that anymore, because they're not going to. They don't have a place to go yet. But I said, just put it there, and let's talk about what you want to be. Now we can start doing some things. They're willing to go there, but they'll never cast it off right away. They don't know how.
Right. Because also, too, when you say a practical formula to fix your life, I wrote on the top of the page, I wrote, learn the process of becoming self, adjust, release imprints, and unearth, give it air, see it for what it really is. Because until you can excavate, so to speak, the person that you are inside, you're going nowhere. I think sometimes a lot of people want to say, but I don't want to hurt anymore. I don't want to feel anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. Well, however you got in the hole and you've covered yourself up with dirt, you're still going to need to use a shovel and find a way to get out of there. So you're still going to feel all of those things for many times. But the idea is, oh, I've already been here. Good, I got this. And then rise up above it. That's the next step, correct?
You said the magic word, feel. Everybody's protecting those feelings. And, I have a chapter in that book that I call I over E, intellect over emotions. And I'm not telling people not to feel. I'm saying put them aside for a moment. Gather the facts. Let your brain be able to do some work. Every time, in the initial sessions when I'm working with people, I say, hey, let's just put this over here. And they say, oh, my God, that's going to do whatever. What if? All those kinds of things that people ask. And I just say, all I want you to do is say, okay, I'm not going to deal with that for a few moments, and let me just engage my brain, because those emotions are coming in and really doing a good job at affecting what I need to do. So let me just put that aside. I can emote later based on facts. I'll be emoting in a more healthy fashion, but let me get my brain into the picture first. And that usually happens in the first 3 to 5 seconds, as I'm sure you know.
I think also, too, the idea is that a lot of times people say, I'm running from something, and they don't know what the something is. And if we just put fear there, and, there's all kinds of things that you can relate to all the letters and all that, and it's like whatever. I can distinctly remember my son, he had tried to commit suicide 13 times. And on the 13th time, I said to him, have you and your counselor go in a white room, sit there with nothing in there, and I want you to welcome fear in. I want you to call it out, walk around, call it out, yell and scream, tell it to come in, show you how big it is. What is it about? Where is it going? What does it look like? What's its colors? What does it feel like? And when you get done with that, you're just sitting there, you and your counselor. Fear didn't have anything.
No.
It just was something else. And that was the last time he did it. And he now works with kids who are at risk in gangs, and it teaches them the importance of today, because they may not have tomorrow, but they've got today. So I think when we talk about fixing your life, it's about saying, what is the gift of today that I have, versus saying, I need to plan out my future because I've got to walk another path now.
And, once you face the fear is not the issue. And oftentimes it's not there, as you know. It's it's what we put in our mind that we're afraid something is going to happen, or we think we're afraid. We're really not. We just haven't learned how to confront that yet. We allow that to overtake us, and then we treat the symptoms, whether we drink, or we go buy something, or we go out and be social, or whatever, or we take Xanax or something. We found some way to deal with that so it goes away, rather than saying, okay, wait a minute, what's the worst that could happen right now? That's what I always ask people. Give me your worst scenario. Well, I'm not sure. Well, what exactly are you afraid about? And they'll give me some basic things. I'll tell you what I find a lot is that they're dealing with anxiety. And then the anxiety they're trying to fix with their brain, so they're searching for something to attach that to so they can fix it. But I always tell them, let's just start with your body. Let's get your blood work done if we need to. Whatever it is, let's find out if everything's okay. Is your thyroid okay? Hormones are all those things okay? I get those things out of the way first. Mm-hmm. If they come back and those are okay, and we're still dealing with some things, and as you know, we're going to go back and see if there's any traumas and what created the fear. But the thing I tell them is that every one of those are fixable. And as soon as they hear that, and they say, and I tell them, I got your back. There's nothing you're going to bring up that I don't know how to deal with. Now, and when they hear those things, then they relax a little bit because there's an aloneness to this that they create. I'm alone in this. Nobody understands me. No one can fix this. Mm-hmm. It's not true, obviously.
Right. You know, also, too, being a medium, also, you know, I live in New Orleans. I can walk down the street, and all of a sudden I'll have this weird anxiety, or something will come over me, or I can't breathe, and I'm running down the street, or I'm hearing something, and that's all past life stuff because I read energy. You know, I think sometimes, a lot of times, people will say, I have this sense of this feeling, and I don't know where it's coming from. There are many logical answers, and there's also a few that are illogical answers. But those others, illogicals, are like, okay, that's story. That's a fragment. That's a past. Got it. And then you go back to the other part and say, good. I let that go now. Now I can go forward. I think sometimes people don't understand that sometimes there are things in our world that we've passed through, even, you know, traumatic events in our childhood or whatever, that have been blocked out for a reason. We don't need to activate them. We don't need to excavate them. We can just say, what is the feeling that brings up? And work from there. Sometimes it's like, do I need to go on Ancestry and find out all the stories? And you have to interview everybody. And to make somebody right or wrong, that's not going to get you there, right?
Oh, it doesn't. You know, and again, we point fingers quickly, and we become very good at that, unfortunately. But it solves nothing. It doesn't even the playing field. It doesn't do anything like that. What it does, it's another way of removing us from ourselves. We are now focusing whatever we're concerned about on some other individual. They're not going to listen most of the time. They're definitely not going to change it. Mm-hmm. We're going to be in the same place all over again. I guess we have to find somebody else to point at. You know, so that's always a red flag. I always say to people, if you're doing that, that's a red flag to you that you're not dealing with yourself. Bring it back and say, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Where's this coming from? Because that's where you're going to need to go to fix it anyway. It doesn't matter if they're wrong. That's them. Mm-hmm. That's their journey. You're not going to change it. Change yours.
What about the idea of perfection that everybody believes that, you know, in other words, I'm always good, but if something's wrong, then I'm no longer perfect.
Yeah.
You know, and boy, is that, I think that if you look back at the decades, that really came about in, I think, say about the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Mm-hmm. If you look back before that, it was pre-war. People were rather illiterate. They were fighting each other all the time, coming off the Depression. And then people got nice white picket fence houses. They started to get braces in the 60s and 70s, plastic surgery in the 80s and 90s, you know, more education, you know, and how many degrees could you have, you know, kind of idea. So in essence, society does play a part in our evolution. So that's definitely a good starting point, too, when you know how old you were, what you went through, what your beliefs and truths are, perhaps?
Absolutely, you know, because you know, I came up in the same time you did, and I remember all those things, and we became a performance society. You know, if you weren't performing, if you weren't doing the best you could, you were probably lazy. You know, those types of things. So we measure that by our accomplishments, or you know, we'll review our day. When people write journals, and I say, well, give me an idea what you put in there. Most of it's not experiential or feeling. It's a lot of it's performance. Well, I did this today, but I really didn't do a good job with that, and then I said, well, look at what you're doing. You are not your performance. That's a function of what, you know, the rest of you, what's inside. Tell me about what's inside. We need to get away from trying to measure up. We set our goals. We decide what we want to do. But the neat thing is, When you go in and fix all those little things and tweak all those little things inside you, you're so much more proficient, and you don't need the performance tags and you don't need the letters anymore, because those are the things that you put in your life to complete who you are. And when you complete who you are from the inside, that falls away. You don't need it anymore.
Yeah. I can distinctly remember my parents, even to this day, they'll say, you never can sit still. Like I would, as a child or an adult, or even if I visit them, and I would be sitting down, they'd be like, go do this, go do that, go do this, go do that. It was like always had to be on the move. And I was always like, at that frayed kind of the end of the cord. And I can distinctly remember I took about maybe 20 years, and I said, I've stepped away from it, stepped away from everybody and everything. And I just said, I'm just going to be. That's it. I'm just going to be who I am, see how the day unfolds, and walk through it from there. And I'll tell you, once you do that, your body starts to heal. Your mind has a rest. Things start to show up that are in alignment for you, and the world starts to work your own way. Instead of you going out and trying to say, I got to get, I got to grab, I got to have. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And, in practical terms, because as you were talking, I'm hearing people say, okay, great, how do I do that? The first step is stop trying to be someone else. Stop trying to compare yourself. Yeah. Before you make any changes, it's sort of like before you go in and redo your garage, you got to pull everything out of your garage so you have the open space. So you're going to create open space. So the first thing you do is stop saying, I'm not going to do that. Because someone else does it. Maybe I'm going to disconnect from social media after maybe a half hour, or I'm going to do all these things so it's only me. I am with me. The problem is people don't like that. Then they experience themselves. But that's a good thing. You're going to get to some things you don't like, but you need to purge before you move forward.
Don't you think that's what's happened the past several years, is when we were not able to go out and do things like let's go out and always be going to social events, or going out to eat all the time, or going to stores and buying all this stuff, and people had to stay home. They had to deal with themselves. People kind of went off the chain. Some of them for the good, some for the better, some for the worse, don't you think?
Absolutely, and we're seeing the backlash now. I told people when we get to 2023 and 4, that's when we're going to see all the people needing a lot more help, because they did a lot to medicate, they purchased, they did all the things they wanted to do to somehow make that feel okay. I always told people, how would you feel if the lights went off, you had no television, no connectivity, but everything else was good, you were safe, you had your food and everything else? Could you be okay? And they all say, my God, no. Where would I go? What would I do? I said, well, that's what we did. In the 20s, before there wasn't all this stuff. You read books, you talked, you were at home, you played games, you did all those kinds of things, and we were happy and we survived, and we were thinking about ourselves and what we felt. We're not doing that anymore. We're going so fast that we don't have time to think.
But now I think that we're coming on a precipice point of people that have been trying to say, well, I had to get back to normal. I had to get back to a sense of me. I had to whatever it is. And now we're getting to the point of it's not filling me up. Something is still not right, and they can't put their finger on it. I would say probably 24, 25, 20, 24, 25, people are going to say, there's got to be something more. What is this human thing all about? Because you know what? I've been going 3 shades of violet to be able to figure it out, and it's not happening. But I know I've been everywhere, and we're all going to be asking what's next.
That's the key. And I always tell people, this whole thing, getting healthy, is how you nurture yourself. And if you're doing it from the outside, it's empty calories. You need to understand that. There's no foundation. There's nothing for you to really grasp and hold on to. And you keep on getting in the grinder every day and going, and it's going to chew you up. Get back to the point where it's nutritional that's coming into your body. And that's what you find inside you. That's where it is. Your life has to have a foundation. You have to be able to define it and say, this is who I am. This is what I base it all on. This is how I move forward. we're not defining ourselves anymore. We're defining ourselves based upon what's outside, and again, empty calories.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Many times patients would come to me and they would say, I would give them an herb or whatever, and they'd say, what is it going to do for me? And my answer is, I have no idea. Let me know how it affects you, what it feels like, and what it guides you to. And they're like, what are you talking about? Because I think sometimes we've gotten into the point of, medicine is great on this thing. Take this drug, it'll lower your blood pressure. Take this drug, it'll fix your diabetes. Well, what we know is that it doesn't always lower your blood pressure. It doesn't always fix your diabetes. And it doesn't always give you that going back that you're looking for. So in essence, when you give someone something, you say, you know what? I feel inspired to be able to offer you this piece of wisdom, this piece of knowing, or I have a sense that this is what you perhaps may wish to hear, and I'm offering it to you. And it's up to you to create your own healing. I cannot heal you. It is up to you to take the information and create your own healing based upon what works for you. That is the biggest key in health. Yes?
It is the center of all of it. I've told people for years, you're going to see me once a week, and I'm the type of person that you can call anytime. So if you call me, that's wonderful. But, it's really, I'm going to help you, open this pot and turn over that rock and do all those kinds of things. But then you have to go do it. I'll give you some of the roadmap, but you're the one that's going to travel that. So you really need to get proficient at staying in action and staying committed to the program. I always tell people it's your life. You love it, and how you love it is you give it attention, nurturing attention every day.
Right.
And if you're willing to do that, you're going to be happy. You're going to face this death and that person leaving and whatever it may be. That's not going away. However, you're going to be strong enough to deal with those things when they come along, and they will. But again, you're a stronger person then.
I think also, too, the idea is that we talk about the word compliance. I'm probably the most non-compliant person you could possibly find, because I will take the information and I'll create it and make it my own. Therefore, I am, quote, not compliant in their belief of whatever that is, because it's my belief or what I'm doing. So we think about the word compliance. We say, is compliance that I'm telling you what you need to do? I'm going to be a coach on the sidelines and rah-rah you when you do something good and, wag my finger when you're not. And you go, ooh, is that really what you're looking for? I don't believe that we now, at this decade in life, are looking for that any longer. That used to be the way it was done 10, 20, 30 years ago. But now we are evolving in a greater amount of awareness of self, don't you think?
Absolutely. And that's why I like to, based on their particular treatment design, what we're putting together with them, give them things to do, but they're individualized. And then there's always that communication back and forth. Well, I like that part, but I don't like this. I said, good, then let's pursue why you don't. Let's find out. You don't need to be. You didn't come here to be compliant. You didn't come here for me to say, here, do all these things. If that's the case, you'll be calling me forever. The bottom line is we're trying to do something that you are going to tailor to meet your needs, and you as an individual are going to be able to use it. But we do need to get to something that's going to work for you.
But also, too, if you take it a step farther, it's not the compliance that's the issue sometimes. It's the feeling of control, the feeling of someone else taking over their life, or the feeling of saying that someone has to know better than me. Many times I would maybe give an herb to somebody or something, and they'd come back and say, this is what had happened. They report. And there'd be times when people would say, I didn't take it at all. I left it on the counter. And I said, oh, that's awesome. You were able to make a choice that you felt in yourself that it wasn't for you. And then out of their next words out of their mouth was, because you know what, I have this other symptom I didn't tell you about. Or you know what, I looked at it, but you know what, I was thinking this. And that took us on the journey. So in other words, is sometimes that we may give, just as you do in your work and I do in mine, is we may give it to them, but that may lead them on a journey to give us something back that they may have been holding on to, didn't notice, didn't recognize, or were unaware of in their consciousness. And that is like opening up another gate to the level of who you are, right?
Absolutely. There are times I'm on a particular plan with someone, and they take it off and they go in a different direction. That's irrelevant to me. The fact that they're still, that they're honestly working with something, they're making some choices, they're willing to carry those choices out and stay committed, that's fine. Because the bottom line is, as you and I know, they can be with us for 6 months or a year or 2 years, and then we don't see them anymore. I don't have control over what they're doing the rest of their life, so why would I try to control them while they're coming to see me? I don't do that. The very fact that they're working, that they're doing something, is going to yield results.
Yeah. I can remember saying things to people, and I only see them sometimes once, but my first visit is usually 3 hours. But in that period of time, people would say 20 years ago, oh, gosh, you told me that then, and I didn't even realize it until today. Sometimes our inner heart or inner mind is not ready for the message, but it definitely stores it in the bank, so to speak.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That happens, I think, in every type of counseling situation. Yeah. I don't think that there's anything that anytime we can say, I presented you with this whole picture and you got all of it. If they, it's the way the mind works. If they take 20 to 30% away, I thought I did really, really well. And then the rest of it, they're gonna incorporate in their lives the way they want to, and at a time when they're able to do that. And I've had those same things where they come back and say, gee, 10 years, or they call and they say, hey, you remember you told me that 10 years ago? And I say, yeah. And they say, I just started using it. Now it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's because you know what? The bottom line is it's not about us. It's about them.
Right.
They're coming to see me. It's all about them, not me. So I I try to always maintain absolute zero when it comes to ego in counseling. That's, I don't have that. This is their journey. I'm just walking with them for a while.
I think also to the idea of the word trust, because people say, I have to trust you. I was in a relationship once where I said to them, why do you have me here? And they said, because I trust you. And I went, ooh, that does not sound good.
Scary.
For lack of better, that sounded like they had me with their hands around my neck, so to speak, And I said, that just does not sound good. So I think the idea of trust, I've had this list, Faust, that I say, it's called kick it to the curb words. There's a lot of words that I think now we can start saying they should evolve out of the human language, and I think trust is one. Because trust, you think of it, it thinks of cement. You think of control. You think of sometimes it has to be, or, things like that. So sometimes when we use the word trust now in the year 2023, we say, I trust, I'll say, I'm holding it close to my heart for a little while. And if it proves that it's good, fine. And if it isn't, it can fly away like a butterfly. Exactly. That's the new age way of trust instead of the old age way of trust where people put all of their, pennies in the bank and cemented them down. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's where I go back to that power inside you. If you use the word trust word, if you trust yourself, if you find that inside and you can trust that you'll make a good decision, that you can look at information and pull apart what you need to pull apart. If you can do that yourself, you really don't need that trust on someone else, because what you're really saying, that always has the need associated with it. All that external stuff, what we put in another person, always has need associated with it. You should only really need yourself. If you have faith, that's fine. Whatever you choose in those things. However, if you're going to put that in another human being, that human being is evolving and changing, and what you're trusting today may not be the same tomorrow. And then you're going to be disappointed or hurt. So it's a real fragile way to live. But if you trust yourself as you evolve, you that comes along with you. It grows with you. So it's always about inside.
Do you think also, too, like, I mean, sometimes you could use the word trust for a period of time, and then you could say, I can let that go. I'm just going to know myself, whatever it is in this moment. You know, I think sometimes, you know, I work so much with patients at end of life, and they're all about, well, I have no future, I have no this, I don't plan. And I'm going, but if you think about it, life to death is just one breath.
So,
so you're living in the present and future every split second that you breathe. So why are you so concerned with the other story that you have to create? Because that's all a figment of your mind. So if you can kind of take that mind and set it to the side, might you just live from that breath-to-breath moment?
And you would. You know, we talk about legacies, and we talk about what we're leaving behind, and we're very concerned about that. You know, you're not going to be here. Who cares?
Right.
You're right. I can't. I'm talking with you now. I can't tell you a minute from now I'm even going to be alive. I don't have that. I have the moment I'm in, and I'm going to continue to do that. I always say my life is made up of all the moments God gave me, and I'm going to maximize all of them until they stop. Then that's going to be the end. But in the meantime, you enjoy the moment that's right in front of you. That's all. That's really all you have. We're taught to, you know, insurance programs and guarantees, and take this drug and you're going to feel better. All these things that, you know, put us in a position to not do this live in today's thing, live in the moment kind of thing.
Those are more of the kick to the curb words. You know what I mean?
They are.
You know, I can tell you, I've had such a tumultuous kind of life. You know, I've been up and down and everywhere. And as someone had said to me at one time, they said, oh, I'm so sorry for your suffering. And I think I was like in my 60s. And I literally took out my iPhone and said, define suffering, because I didn't know what it meant. And I'm going, because I don't suffer. You know, in other words, to me, that word, it had no basis. It just didn't show up in my world. And I said, wow, I don't suffer. I don't get that, you know. And I think to be able to get to that point where you realize that all of this tchotchkes that you carry behind you, you know, they just are just things. They're just experiences. They're moments in time. You know, I had a loved one that was doing life insurance, and he used to go out and pick up payments. That's in the area. That's how they did it. And he would go out, you know, like on a Sunday to pick up a payment, and he had to go back on Monday for something. And he drove to the house, and everything was out on this curb that was in the house. And he said to the person, he says, what happened? You know, a loved one was there. She said, oh, she died last night, so we cleaned her house out today. You know, I live in New Orleans. We celebrate life. We don't worry about those other things. And you think about it and you go, you know, how many times have we held on to things so it would make other people love us, like us, or care for us? You know, I cannot tell you how many patients at end of life would say, I wrote down all of the things so to make sure I leave this for my husband or that for my niece or that for my granddaughter or whatever. And you know what happens? They come and they see it and they throw it away anyway.
Yes, they do.
The answer is it's your idea you put on it. And you're trying to supersede that onto them.
Yeah,
and it doesn't work that way.
You gave it life that it didn't have. And then you want the other person to come and run with that life, and they want no part. They can't even identify with what you're talking about.
You know, I think sometimes your book, you know, when you talk about Fix Yourself, it's about going through all these transition times in our life because they are very important. We all have them. You and I have been through all of these, and everyone else has too. But to understand, oh, that was just a transition point. Yay! Put your arm up in the sky and say, yay. Instead of saying, oh, that was a horrible thing, let me tell you, blah, blah, blah. So if you could say, yay, it was transition. I'm still here today. That's the time we're talking about. How do you proceed through life, even though the challenges take you out every single day? Perhaps?
And they will continue to do that. That's the guarantee. It's a dynamic life. It will continue to challenge us. Again, it's what you bring to the show. That's always the key. And so for me, I just want to keep focusing on, my growth. I don't make it a chore. I don't make it something that's a huge effort. I just calmly enjoy the process every day. I'm going to get challenged. I know that. But I know what I'm bringing to the show. And what I'm bringing, I'm pretty confident is going to be able to deal with anything that comes up. And if it gets knocked down a bit, then there was a reason. I'll go find out why. And I'll learn and I'll get stronger. But, this is me down the road. Back to that first step. The first step is we've got to purge the stuff that doesn't make any sense. Right. That is the first thing, because you're not growing if you're not going forward if you're holding on to what's holding you back.
Yeah. In closing, I live in New Orleans, as I said, and, we've had so many hurricanes here from Katrina on up, and lost everything all those times. And let me tell you, we're experts at it. It's sort of like, awesome, we're going to have another storm. Well, I guess I'm not going to clean for June and July. Let open the doors and let it all go, Or, but I can tell you that with each storm that comes by, different parts of your mental, emotional, and physical being takes a hit. The last storm, we had heat stroke for over a week with no medical support because there was no hospitals or doctors. And we just laid on the sidewalk for a week, to be able to hopefully get to the point where we would get better and something would shift, and it did. But I think the idea is that how strong are you? What can you hold on to? And what can you say? If today is my last day, I'm good. Everything was gone. We were good. We were okay. Now, we don't repeat it, but we understand its value. And I think we need to understand the value of every lesson that we've had in our life. And that's what we should carry with us, the value of the moment versus all of the other stuff that it had to be able to collect around it.
And you're right, and you find the value when you're not overvaluing other things that are just not important, and that's what we do. And so the really key in that is that we all do want to value. We don't know how, so we attach it to concrete things. Right. And I keep saying that to people. You're already doing this. We just have to shift. We just have to move you in a different direction. Stop valuing that. Think about it. It's not going to be there for you. You're going to be there for you. Start valuing yourself and grow and get strong. It's actually so much fun to do when you continue, when you stay consistent.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the $1 T-shirts from Walmart are awesome. Because you don't put anything into it. It's sort of like, I'm getting dressed today. Awesome. I've got 10 T-shirts, all good to go.
There you go.
Yeah. And I think the idea is, sometimes people say, well, what is your diet? And I'll say, I don't know, whatever food graces and shows up in front of me. I mean, when the Red Cross trucks come around and you're eating Chef Boyardee and a little bag of cookies out of a plastic bag, you'll be thankful and grateful for what you're given. So the idea is that are we high and mighty in what we're expecting and demanding out of our life, or are we grateful and thankful and honoring what shows up?
And gratitude is the key. You're right. Humility, gratitude, all those things, they work so well. I do chapters in the book on those things. Because if you learn how to master those particular processes, life changes. Yeah, it sure does. Takes you on a roller coaster, which we've all been through. Faust, can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work? That would be wonderful. Absolutely. For anyone interested, the best place to go is my website. It is my name, www.faustruggiero.com, or just type my name in. When you get to the website, it has everything about the books, all the program. You'll see how I do things. There's a contact link there if anyone wants to get in touch with me. Very good. Well, it was such a pleasure to have you with us here today, as I call it, dance in the ethers with us, because then we were able to look down and observe instead of being always dragged around with all of this drama that's around. And thank you so much for joining us, Faust. It has been truly a pleasure to talk with you today, and perhaps maybe you'll come back on with one of your other books, yes? Love to.
Very good. Thank you. If you'd like to find out more information about Faust Ruggiero, again, the book is the Fix Yourself Handbook. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to his website for more information and find out about his programs, his work, and his other books. And it is about being able to say it's okay wherever you are. If you've really got a whole lot of baggage, fantastic. Tell us about it. If you are really feeling like you're hitting the wall, great. Let's talk about it. If you're looking around and saying, I feel lost, I cannot get out of the hole I'm in, that's even better. The idea is be observant, be aware, and stand still instead of running and racing and losing your sense of self. There is help, there is guidance, and there are people to walk alongside with you. All you need to do is ask for help. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher. Until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr.jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.